You're listening to the Huddle Up Podcast with Chad Jensen and Zack Kelberman. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com and sound off. And now it's time to drop some knowledge.
But we do have to let the stream breathe just for a few seconds to make sure that we have all of our social channels. And we're good. Welcome in, everybody, to the Huddle Up Podcast, presented as always by Mile High Huddle, powered by Overtime Media. I'm your host, Chad Jensen, and with me, as always, my partner in crime. You know him, you love him. He is my fellow football priest. He is Zack Kelberman. Zack, I'm going to butcher this dude's name, but the Broncos signed after they brought him in for a visit. He went through all the protocols. They officially signed. I just had it, dude, from watching the highlight. Demaria Crockett. That's what it was. Demaria Crockett to the practice squad. Of course, former Mizzou Tiger, former Drew Lock and Albert Okwuegbunam teammate. Your reaction to the Broncos kind of keeping the Tigers band together?
Yeah, they're kind of keeping it all in the family. It's very incestual. You know, I butchered that word as well, but it's another, I think, favor to Drew Lock. They drafted Alberto fairly high. That's he has a lot of chemistry with Alberto. This is more of an indictment. I wouldn't even say indictment. Bellamy's injury, losing Bellamy, just needing a depth body at this point of the season. Maybe Royce Freeman, they weren't happy with his blitz protection or what he's bringing to the table or lack thereof. I wouldn't look at this as a season-defining move, franchise-altering move. It's nice that there's chemistry with the Missouri connection, but beyond that, Chad, how do you really get too excited about Demaria?
Demaria, right? Good job, my friend. Yeah, I wasn't even sure, honestly, why they made the move, just because you still have Jeremy Cox, and I know he was actually signed to the active roster, I don't know, a week and a half back. However, I think more than anything, what this telegraphs to Broncos country is the reality that the Broncos are anticipating a suspension to be handed down to Melvin Gordon at some point this year. I guess there's maybe a chance it could come next year, depending on if he fights it in terms of not just with the local, law enforcement, but with the league and whatnot. If he just takes it on the chin, admits fault and all that, it could happen as soon as this year. And I think that's the Broncos, Zach, being a little preemptive and trying to look ahead and hedge. Let's get a guy in now, get him in the scheme, get him back feeling comfortable again with Drew, and see where we're at.
Yeah, again, it's a depth move. The familiarity with Drew Lock, I think, separated this signing from any other guy they could have picked up on the street. Any other any other roster body at this point, midseason body. It's the Missouri connection. I'm sure Drew Lock vouched for him in the same way he probably vouched for Alberto's drafting. It's good to have the familiarity, but other than that, unless there's an injury to Phillip Lindsay or an injury to Royce Freeman, he's not going to factor too much into their immediate plans.
So today, of course, it is the favorite podcast of each and every week for Zach and I. It is that time in the week where we take a peek inside the Mile High Mailbag, because we are your football priests, and each and every week, we're here to offer you the absolution and answers to your burning Broncos questions, and we can't wait to find out what is on your mind. We got to talk about the injury report, which on Thursday had some new developments, some exciting developments, and also a couple of concerns that we're going to talk about here as well. Now, I have a little thing I got to take care of this evening, so we might have to maybe dip out of here a little bit earlier than we might normally. But if that's the case, just get your questions in, the topics, whatever you need to get off your chest, whatever demons you need exercise, any super chats that you're planning on putting, get them in early. And Zach and I will get to each and every one. That's a promise before I do officially have to dip on out of here. Real quick, Zach, as well, I wanted to see, it looks like I want to get into the full injury report, but Draymond Jones, it's looking like he's going to play this week against the Chiefs, and that couldn't have come at a more opportune time for the Broncos.
Timmy Jernigan's release kind of telegraphed that. They wouldn't have released him, even for depth purposes, if they weren't confident in Draymond Jones and DeMarcus Walker. The bye week, they couldn't get him back because the game was rescheduled, the Patriots game. Their bye week came early. NFL rules prohibited that. It seems like they're fully healthy. We talked about it yesterday. We touched on it. Draymond Jones' reinsertion into the lineup is going to be so crucial. It's one thing for Bradley Chubb to look like Bradley Chubb, Simmons to look like Simmons, but the interior push in the middle of the line, you're getting it from Shelby Harris, somewhat from Mike Purcell, but from the other end position. Will it be DeMarcus Walker? Will it be Draymond Jones? They signed Kilgo. They signed Sylvester Williams back. They have some bodies on the defensive line. Deshaun Williams. So now that they're mostly healthy, the sum of all their parts can be what they needed since Malik Jackson disappeared, Chad. That interior guy they thought they were getting with Jarrell Casey didn't turn out that way at all. But I think Draymond Jones, who was looking great before he went down, he's going to add a little something to this game. And anything to make Mahomes uncomfortable, anything to make him not get into a groove in the pocket, anything to push him back into that pass rush will help the Broncos defense tremendously. There's no reason to dislike Draymond Jones coming back.
Coming back from injured reserve, which, by the way, is why you don't see his name on the injury report, because technically he's not on the roster. And the injury report, the practice report, I should say, each and every week is there for the guys who are on the roster. What are they doing at practice? And so as soon as Draymond gets activated, you'll start seeing him again, of course, on that, including DeMarcus Walker, including Aj Boulier, who it's also looking good. I mean, this is one of those games where, it's shaping up to be a snow game again, Zach, oddly enough. I mean, Locke versus Mahomes Part 2 is shaping up to be yet another snowstorm for the Denver Broncos and Kansas City Chiefs, which is going to be really fun to watch. And, that's going to have some implications. It's going to slow the gears down a little bit offensively for both teams here. But the Broncos are inching back to about as close to full strength as they're going to be able to get to this year, outside of, ducking the injury bug between now and December, and then Von Miller maybe being able to come back halfway through December if the Broncos are relevant.
Yeah, Mother Nature with the assist for Sunday's game. And you know what they say about weather, Chad? It's the great equalizer, and it favors rushing attacks. And in this case, it would favor the Broncos ground game, even with Le'Veon Bell, even with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm taking a full-strength Phillip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon, what he brings to the table. And if it becomes a battle of the running games and the Broncos play the defense they played against the Patriots, this will get very interesting very, very quickly.
We can't wait to continue to break this down with you guys. Get to your questions, get to your supers here in just 1 second. First, a few really quick matters of business. Gang, tonight's live stream pod is brought to you by sportsbetting.com. Gambling is now legal in the state of Colorado. Everybody knows that. Here is what makes sportsbetting.com a no-brainer for Broncos country. You get sharp odds, you get low juice, hassle-free bonuses, and 24/7 live support, and it's always a real person in the United States. And this is not a site that uses third parties to provide odds. This is in-house bookmakers, reduced juice, and the very, very best prices. But the kicker is this. At sportsbetting.com, you can get a 100% risk-free week of sports betting up to $1,000. They've upped the ante. And it's not just one bet, all of your bets. So you can play for a week. If your losses exceed your winnings at the end of the week, sportsbetting.com will cover 100% of the difference up to $1,000, and you can roll it over one time. So head on over to sportsbetting.com/milehighhuddle. That's sportsbetting.com/milehighhuddle, and capitalize on a risk-free week of sports betting up to $1,000. All right, guys, a couple other quick things here, and then we will get right to your questions and comments. We'll talk more about the injury report. Make sure you're connected with us on social media. First and foremost, follow the podcast on Twitter at HuddleUpPod and the main account at Mile High Huddle. And while you're at, as you can see here in the video boxes, my partner Zack Kelberman at Kelberman NFL, myself at Chad N. Jensen. If you have those 4 accounts followed, you're not going to miss anything as it relates to your favorite podcast and your team, the Denver Broncos. And then also, gang, gentle reminder to head on over to huddleuppod.com. Get your swag on if you're in a position to do that. Get a MHH trucker hat. Get a football preset like you see Zach rocking there. Get a face mask. Get one of Christie's brand new shirts that are selling like hotcake. Get a mug. There's hoodies. It's starting to cool down. The face mask, the hoodie, going to come in handy right about now. It's just another way that you can support what we're doing here at MHH. And a shout out to our Facebook supporters and our Facebook community, which just continues to grow at a mind-boggling rate. If you would like to become an official supporter, just go to our page, facebook.com/milehighhuddle. You'll see the big blue button that says become a supporter. Click that. You're in like Flynn. We have some really exciting developments coming down the pike content-wise that are going to be keyed specifically to and only for our official Facebook supporters. So shout out to you guys. And gang, if you're not in a position to do any of those things, it's all good. We are just completely stoked to have you in the stream here with us live or listening after the fact on demand as a podcast. But what we ask is these three things. Each and every one of you can do these three things. And first and foremost, that's subscribe. Second is like this video, like this episode. And the best testimonial, gang, to tell Zach and I if you guys really think we're doing a good job or not is whether or not you're sharing these podcasts out there. Share this video out on your social media. It's the best way that we can tell if we're doing well. It's our litmus test. And that helps us continue to grow and reach like-minded Broncos fans just like you.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Listen up, Broncos country. Coors Hard Seltzer is not your average seltzer. Rooted in Coors' long history of sustainability, their brand was inspired by a generation that wants to do good in the world, that has a mission to restore America's rivers. Never before has it been so easy to make an impact and make a difference and do good in the world. Coors Hard Seltzer is launching the world's easiest volunteer program. Whatever you're doing, simply by cracking open a can of Coors Hard Seltzer, you're volunteering. Our waterways, guys, they are at risk. 80% of America's rivers are drying up, and through a partnership with Change the Course, Coors Hard Seltzer is helping to protect and restore America's rivers. Each 12-pack of Coors Hard Seltzer restores 500 gallons of fresh water to U.S. rivers. Wrap your brain around that. And the communities that depend on them. It's so important. The results? 1 billion, that's with a B, gang, gallons of water restored to 16 river basins across the U.S., including the Colorado River. And that's just year one. And here's what's great about Coors Hard Seltzer. 4 refreshing flavors, 1 cool cause. Enjoy naturally flavored black cherry, mango, lemon lime, and grapefruit. And the specs are in, gang. Coors Seltzer is 4.5% ABV and only 90 calories.
Chad, I got to say, for last Sunday's slate of NFL games, I picked up a Coors Hard Seltzer and mango. Loved it. This week, I picked up a Coors Hard Seltzer and black cherry. Loved it even more. So, guys, whether you want to support the cause or like the flavors, you won't be disappointed with a Coors Hard Seltzer.
Amen. So join the world's easiest volunteer program by simply drinking Coors Hard Seltzer. You can volunteer to restore America's rivers. You buy Coors Hard Seltzer, you help restore 500 gallons of water into America's rivers. It is that simple. Visit CoorsSeltzer.com to find Coors Seltzer near you. That's CoorsSeltzer.com.
For every 12-pack sold through 8/31/2021, Coors will purchase services from Change the Course to restore 500 gallons of fresh river water. Details at CoorsSeltzer.com. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
All right, Zach, I want to get to the injury report real quick, just a brief look at it, and then we will dive right into the Mile High Mailbag quickly here. I'm gonna grab this so everyone can follow along. The practice report, some good news. Noah Fant went from being limited on Wednesday to a full participant on Thursday. Mike Purcell, here's also some good news. The big nose tackle, limited on Wednesday, full participant on Thursday. And the same went for Bradley Chubb. Now, Bradley Chubb, he's got a little ankle thing, and they were just kind of playing it safe, limiting him on Wednesday. He was a full go today on Thursday. DeMar Dotson was back. Of course, it was a vet rest day. He was a full participant today. KJ Hamler, though, went from being limited yesterday to being limited today. So not necessarily being upgraded in his status, Zach, but not a step backward either. That's good that he's not experienced any kind of a setback. And then lastly, Jake Butt popped up on the injury report. He was not listed on Wednesday, but he popped up with a hammy on Thursday. So it's
here we go.
Back. Noah Fant's going to be back this week.
Yeah, he's definitely playing, and it seems like Hamler, we talked about this briefly before we went on. I do think he will suit up KJ Hamler on Sunday against the Chiefs, if only because they have to match fire with fire. He's not going to play starter snaps, 100% of offensive snaps, but he will have some role as a situational pass catcher, a deep threat, even a decoy. And getting him on the field means Deshaun Hamilton comes off the field. So I'm very excited to see Hamler play on Sunday.
Also, real quick, it's worth mentioning, Dalton Reisner was out on the practice field, did take the field early, had a helmet, was out there with his teammates stretching and warming up, but did not participate. The Broncos, I think, Zach, are playing it safe and conservative because they do hope and expect that he can play this Sunday against the Chiefs. But barring that, if that shoulder's not able to turn the corner, then of course they'll roll with Austin Schlottman again at left guard. And then you got the tight end fullback, Andrew Beck, has not practiced at all this week with a hammy. So, a couple of minor role players like Butt and Beck popping up on the injury report. But by and large, Zach, I think the message Broncos fans should be holding on to here is this team is inching back to full strength, and it could happen as soon as this Sunday.
Yes, for sure. Dalton Reisner, he has to get a limited practice at least tomorrow to have any chance of playing. If he's DNP tomorrow, he's going to be out on Sunday, and Schlottman will fill in. And Dalton Reisner, it might not be a huge loss considering how poorly he's looked through to this point of the season. Other than that, like you mentioned, Fant coming back, Boulier coming back, Hamler coming back. The Broncos offense has Drew Lock under center for 2 games in a row. Phillip Lindsay's there. Melvin Gordon will be there. This is going to be, I think, more of a game than many people are realizing on Sunday.
Mr. Boggins, everybody knows this superstar in the MHH community. Appreciate you, my friend.
Thank you.
He says, all I want to know is who's going to follow Travis Kelce around all game. Is it going to be an extra DB? You put Boulier on him since he's back. I think stopping Kelce is the key. Now, Zach, last year, Vic Fangio, let's just focus on week 15, the snow game, when the Broncos actually had, a decent quarterback. It was a relatively low-scoring affair for the Chiefs, and I think the weather was more, the cause of that as opposed to necessarily anything Fangio was doing schematically. But Travis Kelce was one of the Chiefs' offensive guys that just had himself a day. So,
shocker.
What's your answer? How do you stop him? Can you stop him? Is it a DB? Is it a linebacker? How do you neutralize this cat?
To me, it's an inside linebacker, and his name is Nigel Bradham. And I don't know why he cannot get on the field. I don't know what the Broncos were waiting for. They're going to face one of the best tight end, arguably the best tight end in football, and he is their best pass covering inside linebacker on the roster. Failing that, though, I would bracket Travis Kelce at all times. Then you have to worry if you put Simmons on him, who's going to have Tyreek Hill over the top, Mecole Hardman over the top. They have so many weapons on offense, including Le'Veon Bell now, including Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I would definitely at least always have a linebacker or a safety bumping him at the line of scrimmage, throwing him off, shadowing him, bracketing him, double coverage. Do not let him beat you down the field. He's going to get his yards. Mahomes will get his yards. Hill will get his yards. But it's what extent is he going to damage you? Are you going to let him run wild and have him go for 150 and 2 touchdowns or 60 yards and no scores? It's a huge difference. He's going to hit the ball. It's a matter of how the Broncos guard him and how quickly they tackle him, their gap responsibility. It comes down to coaching and preparation, Chad. If they play the way they played against New England, against Kansas City, they will do enough to limit, not stop, the Chiefs' offense.
Yeah, I mean, that's the best you can hope to do. It's like back in the 90s, if you went against Jordan and Pippen, you're not going to stop either one of those guys, all right? But the best you can hope to do is sell out to limit them. And the only way you can do that is by having a great scheme, executing and playing with discipline. And if the Broncos can do that in a general sense against the Chiefs offensively, or I should say defensively, you got a chance. Now, are you going to see anyone match up like the old Aqib Talib matchup on Jimmy Graham back when he was a Patriot, that one game in which they decided, hey, let's put our number one corner, this big, long, 6'1" Aqib Talib, on Jimmy Graham. And, of course, Belichick looked like a genius because they shut him down. We never saw the Broncos ever do anything similar to that once he became a Bronco with Talib, and all the tight end problems persisted. Nevertheless, I would be open to just about anything at this point. I think Vic Fangio has to realize, though, Zach, what he did last year in both encounters with the Chiefs. Because the first encounter, Mahomes gets hurt, and you get the backup that comes in and still lights up Fangio's defense. I mean, it was out of control. He's just got to recognize that whatever his philosophy was, game planning wise, as a tactician last year, it just wasn't the right sauce for this team. Find something else, find a different formula, give him some unscouted looks, make him think, make him hold on to the ball just a little bit longer. And hopefully, your front seven comes to play, because if you can get pressure on Mahomes, it could result in some big things, especially with this snow. And by the way, we got Kathy jumping in. Good to see you, Kathy.
Thank you.
It's been a minute. Yeah, indeed. One of our superstars, one of the female greats in our community. She says, hey, guys, it's been a minute. Been traveling. No question, just showing some love. Hashtag state of being. It's great to see you, Kathy. Thanks for jumping in. And yeah, whoops, sorry, do that again, John. I missed that. Montana and North Dakota, Kathy says, back home in Seattle area now. That's where she's been traveling from the Pacific Northwest. And yes, Bailey, we did see that it's likely to be a snow game, as we mentioned at the top of the show. Really interesting. We are curious to see how that plays out for both clubs in Week 7. Let's grab Royal here, Zach. Appreciate you, Royal.
Thank you.
I want to say Royal's been a superstar every day this week. Like this is 4 out of 4 pods in a row, if I'm not mistaken, and I could be, but I don't think I am. So thank you, Royal. You have increasingly become a superstar, and it means a lot to us, my friend. He says, Eric Trickle had said on Twitter that Quinn and Williams from the Jets could be had for a second rounder. Would that be a move you guys would approve of? Now, Zach, I know you're shaking your head. I would be all about getting Quinn and Williams for a second rounder if the Jets were really willing to part with him for a second rounder because, I think with the right coach, and I think Vic Fangio and getting him in there with Bill Collar, he could go on to be all-pro, one of the best D tackles in the game.
We thought that about Jarrell Casey, though. I mean, it kind of had my hopes punctured. But, Quinn and Williams, he hasn't realized the potential in New York like we all thought he was going to be. He was a top 5 pick, wasn't he, in the draft?
Yes.
And you're also, if you trade for him, you're inheriting that contract. And to do that, not only the compensation and the money, you're taking snaps away from, let's say, Shelby Harris, Draymond Jones, Deshaun Williams. I never really advocate for the Broncos making a luxury move when they take reps away from younger players. They're pretty okay along the D-line. Draymond's coming back. DeMarcus Walker has a chance. Deshaun has stepped up. And then you have Shelby, who's balling out every game. Throw on Mike Purcell. I don't see the need for Quinn and Williams. If they want to trade for a number 1 wide receiver, let's say, to help Drew Lock out until Sutton comes back next year. If they want to move for another safety or a cornerback, I can see that happening before defensive linemen. I think they're okay in that department.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
I would be I would be all about it. And I think it's a big difference. I get what you're saying because, in fantasy football, I'm one of those owners in fantasy where you could offer me the greatest trade in the world. And I'm one of those devil, better, over the devil you don't. I hold on to my guys, and I just don't like change in that sense and something new and fiddling with the chemistry. But in the case of Quinn and Williams, man, he's, what is this, his second year? He was a top 5 pick. He's been underutilized. He's kind of, he went on the crappiest team in the league. I still think he's got elite potential in him, and it's just going to take the right coaching. And if you look at Draymond, you got Draymond for another couple of years. I think DeMarcus Walker is gone after this year. Shelby, if they're smart, they'll bring him back, and you can put Quinnen in even at nose tackle. I don't know. Super chat from Mike Evans. Everyone knows Mike. Love you, brother.
Yes.
One of the most
Thank you, Mike.
Superstars
Yes.
in our community. He says, do you think we can keep Mahomes under 300 yards passing this week? And Zach, before I serve this over to you for your opinion, I just want to mention here on this game log so far this year, 6 games under his belt, he has eclipsed 300 yards passing exactly half of the time. So last game against Buffalo, they did a pretty good job of limiting the big plays. And, he kind of dinked and dunked, and the Chiefs still got theirs. But he only passed for 225 yards, and then in the season opener, 211. Does Vic Fangio's defense have a performance like that in them this week?
It's because Mahomes doesn't have to be the 300, 400, 500-yard passing guy every week. They have a running game now, so they can win both ways. If the Broncos are to win this game, barring it being a Broncos blowout and it's in garbage time, he will be under 300 yards. Whether that means 4 touchdowns or 2 touchdowns, that will be the difference in the game. They can do it. They held Cam Newton's rushing, attack in check last week. They've played some of the best offenses in the entire NFL and went toe-to-toe with them, including the Titans. They can do this, Chad. They have the horses. They have the firepower. It comes down to scheme. If we get the Broncos team we saw in weeks 1 through 3, they are going to get blown off the field at Mile High. If we get the Broncos defense and scheme we saw last week, it's going to be a competitive game that probably comes down to the fourth quarter. That's my answer.
And this my reply, just riffing off what you said, actually ties in nicely to what John's asking us here on YouTube, who he says, hey, do you still have Denver making the playoffs? I really like the energy with which this team is playing right now. And obviously, that Jets game after starting 0-3, that was a great kind of get right game. Get a little scalp on the wall, so to speak, and start feeling a little bit better about yourself. And that win against the Patriots, as imperfect as it was, that was just massively confidence building. And so I just love the energy. And, this could be the type of game where the Chiefs come in and it's a reality check type thing where the litmus test, you get the results and you're like, okay, yeah, we're still a long ways off here. But I like the energy, and I think this is going to be a competitive game. And so as it relates to the playoffs, John is asking, I think I'll have a little bit better feeling for is this team destined to compete for the playoffs, depending on how this game goes. 9 losses in a row to the Chiefs. They got to snap that at some point. I mean, the law of averages at some point has to come in here and, kind of be a factor. But I don't know. At this point, John, I don't really have an answer for you. Do I still have Denver making the playoffs? It's hard to say. Zach, what do you think?
It's such a hard question, even at this point of the season. And you guys asked us this in week 1. We didn't know. We don't know in week 7. I will say it's going to take about 9 wins, I think, bare minimum, to make the wild card in the AFC this year. That would mean the Broncos have to win 7 more games. Do you believe they have it in them? It's a matter of opinion. They can win 7 more games. They have the ability to win 7 more games. With Locke under center and the defense playing like last week, yes, they can make the playoffs. Will they? I'm with Chad. I know it's kind of a cop-out. I want to see how they come out against Kansas City. Even if they lose this game, I want to see how they lose. Will they play conservative and scared and passive? Or are they going to be aggressive and take the Chiefs down to the last final seconds of the game? I will have a more concrete answer, as I'm sure you will, Chad, after Sunday.
And just seeing what the Raiders did. I mean, if you're the Broncos and you've split with the Raiders now, however many years in a row it's been, and you're like, hey, if they could get a win against this team, we can get a win against this team.
Right.
Levi jumping in, one of our superstars. Love you, bro. Good to see you, Levi. As always. He says, if it snows during the game, does that increase our chances of winning or decrease? I think it increases because, it neutralizes the aerial aspect of what Mahomes and Tyreek and that entire arsenal of weapons can do on KC's side. And then you think, well, it has the same – it has the same negative effect. If it has a negative effect on the Chiefs, it has that same negative effect on the Broncos passing offense. But that's okay because the Broncos, Zach, they're still trying to forge their offense. And if you can establish their passing offense, and if you can establish the run in this game, in a snow game, in a weather game, and utilize the play action and still take a few vertical shots like you showed you were willing to do in that Patriots game, and also like you saw a few times in that Chiefs game in the snow last year, there was that one deep play to Noah Fant on play action. If you can control the game that way, I think it does point the needle. It helps the Broncos. Does it favor the Broncos? I can't go quite that far.
Yeah, Duke brought up a good point that look at last year's snow game. Mahomes looked pretty like Mahomes, and he hit, I think it was DeMarcus Robinson, uncovered for a long touchdown against the Broncos defense. It could be that way. I mean, Mahomes is that good where even snow doesn't stop him or slow this offense down. I want to say it will increase the Broncos' odds if incrementally. Again, Mother Nature is always the great equalizer. Snow and inclement weather, it favors rushing attacks. And I will say the Broncos, I will take their rushing attack over Kansas City's rushing attack right now. Again, if they can limit Kansas City's offense being on the field, that means ball-controlled offense with Lindsey and Melvin Gordon. Take the occasional shots down the field to Hamler, to Judy, underneath to Noah Fant. Get the ball moving north, down the field, take time off the clock, and most importantly, Chad, score touchdowns. If they can do that, they can win this game.
Well said. Daniel Sanchez says, what's up, guys? What do you think about a double tight end set? Fant and Alberto with the play action. Dang, watch out, KC. Yeah, we're hoping Pat Shurmur and Vic Fangio as well. Fangio might have to strong arm this. We hope that they're smart enough to utilize a little 2 tight ends, especially in the red zone, because you're already, when in the red zone, if you're the Chiefs or any opponent, you're already looking Fant's way, right? You're before each and every snap, especially if it's second or third down, you're like, all right, guys, we got to have a plan for does everyone know what we're doing here with Fant? And then you compound that, Zach, by, a tight end who has similar abilities in that red zone where everything shrinks. So I think you will see a few this week, but at the same time, we don't know yet because they were so long-winded and adamant about, hey, we're not playing Alberto because he can't block. And basically they only played him last week because they, I wouldn't say because they had to, but it kind of felt that way, Zach.
But it's the same, I think, this week, especially now with Jake Butt having a hamstring injury. He's limited. He'll be, bulky on the field. Andrew Beck is also a question mark right now. So they're going to need bodies at the position. I think Alberto will be active, But, predicting his usage or knowing what Pat Shurmur's going to do is always a wild card. I never know what the Broncos game plan is going to look like until it's actually unfolding. He'll be on the field. You will see packages with Noah Fant and Alberto together, because this is what the Broncos envisioned when they drafted both tight ends, having this type of Gronkowski, Aaron Hernandez pairing. Whether that translates into 200 plus yards combined, 3 touchdowns, I don't know. But we're going to see some plays, hopefully by Pat Shurmur, utilizing both their skill sets as pass catchers, not blockers.
And for what it's worth, Drew Lock had never played in the snow before that game last year in week 15. And he talked about this yesterday on his Wednesday availability, that one of his takeaways from that game was a little confidence booster in that, hey, I learned that I can throw in the snow. So I think that might be a little bit of a hint that the Broncos are still going to come out and be vertical and throw the football. Jeff C., bona fide superstar, jumping in. Did you see what Tim Patrick did you guys see Tim Patrick not want to answer about Kansas City? Yes, I did. And for those of you who missed it, basically he was asked, if I'm not mistaken here, Zach, I'll see if I can pull up the quote real quick. Give me just 1 second. I'll paraphrase it, in fact, because I don't want to bog down. We don't have a ton of time tonight. But he was basically asked, what's it like playing against the Chiefs and their coverages and their DBs or something to that effect. And he went to answer and he was like, paused, and he goes, I can't trust myself basically to say anything positive, or I can't trust myself to not say something negative, so I'm not going to say anything at all. So a little chippy, I wouldn't quite call it anything close to bulletin board material, but it's a step in that direction. But he didn't say anything. It was omitting that and saying, I don't have anything good to say about my opponent. But competition.
But that says more than actually saying something. Him saying, I don't want to say anything, it actually is a bigger subtle diss than saying, we're going to beat Kansas City, we're going to come out and face them. I love the attitude. I love how the Broncos, it seems like under Drew Lock's brief reign, they really embrace this rivalry between the Chiefs. Even though the Chiefs are obviously kings of the West, they're champions, they're the better team right now. Drew Lock's coming out and stoking the fire, Tim Patrick stoking the fire. You love to see it. Doesn't mean much in the grand scheme of things, but at least Tim Patrick is veteran enough to know he's not giving Andy Reid any whiteboard, bulletin board material at all.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Pobby jumping in off the top rope, being generous. We love you, Pobby. Thank you so much. It means everything to us, and you know that. She's just sending some love. Thank you, my friend. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Let's also grab Dank Buds and Black Metal. Now, that's a handle for you there, Zach, on YouTube.
That's some combo.
Appreciate the super chat, my friend. He says, I don't miss an episode, fellas, but this is my first chance to say hi. Oh, it's great having you in the stream, my friend.
Welcome.
And remember, we're here every single day. Well, Mile High Huddle is 7 days a week from 6 to 7 Mountain. And then, of course, Huddle Up Podcast. We are Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. So just to put it on your calendar. But he says, can't wait for this game, guys. I'm chubbing. I think I can say that. Hey, we're excited to see this one shake out as well. Thanks, Dink Buds.
Yeah, we echo your sentiment there.
I am curious how you define black metal, though. Throw some names out there, the bands that define the genre.
Wow. Dale.
Bona fide superstar, longtime listener, MHH Mount Rushmore member. He can't be in every single stream, but when he's here, he shows his support, he shows his love, and he always brings good questions and good topics. And, he's out there in paradise in Hawaii, soaking up those sun rays. And so we all envy him for that. But Dale, thank you so much for your support, my friend. That just
appreciate you
to us, buddy. He says, with Fant back inactive, Alberto is Shurmur smart enough to use these weapons effectively? Two massive sub 4.5 speedsters at the tight end position, not to mention all other weapons. If Hamler plays, there will be no excuse for lack of scoring. Zach, one thing you said is and I think this was interesting and worth talking about, and it ties into Dale, is that we don't know what to expect from a Pat Shurmur game plan on a week in and week out basis. And I think the biggest reason for that, and it might come off like I'm making excuses for an offensive coordinator, but it's the lack of quarterback consistency. Yes, Drew Lock has now started 3 of the 5 games the Broncos have played, but he's only actually played 2 of those games, and he's had a revolving door, has Shurmur at quarterback. And so it's been difficult for him to really kind of, get into a groove, figure out what works best. And it really does just come down to your quarterback. You have to structure around your quarterback. And you could see last week, Zach, that, hey, man, Shurmur trusts Lock. Shurmur trusts Locke to push the ball and take his shots and do his thing. And so getting back to what Dale's saying here about Alberto and Fant, is Shurmur smart enough to use these weapons effectively? I think he's smart enough. It's just a matter of, can he put it all together in a game? He's got Drew now for 2 games in a row, and, knock on wood, that'll be the first time this year he'll have the same quarterback for a full 60 minutes back to back.
I mean, I'm sure he's a smart guy. You don't get to be an NFL coordinator without being smart. You can't be stupid, but this is also the same guy who completely ignored Noah Fant in the opener and went away from him in the second half and then kind of rediscovered him in the second game. You think on paper having KJ Hamler back, Noah Fant back to pair with Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick, Melvin Gordon, Phillip, all the rest would make it an easy game plan against Kansas City, knowing that you're going to be probably in for some sort of shootout. You're not going to win this game 9-6 unless it's a blizzard of Green Bay proportions. So you have to score points on offense. I do like, though, what he said today in his availability. He was talking about being aggressive against the Patriots, and he indicated that he's going to be that way going forward. I don't think he's going to take his foot off the pedal now with Drew Lock under center. A lot of what you're saying, Chad, is true. It's hard to game plan when you don't have not just your franchise quarterback, but now you're on your third quarterback in Brett Rippon. It's impossible when it changes every week. New linemen, new receivers, this and that. But situationally, there's no excuse for ignoring Fant or a 4th and 1 shovel pass or multiple runs on 3rd and 4th down and short. That's what I'm worried about with Shurmur. I think he can script up a good game plan going into the game, but it's in the first quarter, second quarter, play by play, snap by snap. Will he be consistent? Will he dial up a deep ball after Locke throws an interception in the snow if it happens? Or is he going to run the ball, be more committed to that? That I don't know yet. So we haven't seen a Broncos game with 2 consecutive starting quarterbacks starting the same game. And until we do, I don't know a trend or a pattern in Pat Shurmur's game planning. Right. It sounds like a cop-out, but we have to just see how it plays out before we form any definitive conclusions on Pat Shurmur's coaching ability.
Yeah, we just don't know yet. I think Zach and I, you guys can sense the difference in our tonality. I think at this point, Zach's a lot more skeptical in Shurmur at this stage. I was really excited about the Shurmur addition, and so I'm still kind of holding on to that just because of what I've seen him do in past NFL stops. But eventually, we got to stop making excuses for him. He's got to start making it, plain why he was a coveted coordinator. And this is a good opportunity for him. There are some storylines here with him being a former Andy Reid acolyte and coming up in the NFL under Andy Reid. It's going to be fun. Black Knight. Oh, go ahead, Zach.
Let me just make one point about Pat Shurmur that I think you can agree with. Losing Courtland Sutton sucks, but the Broncos have enough talent on offense to win. They have more talent on offense when you put it all together. The running backs, the tight ends, the receivers they do have are stepping up right now. A first-round pick, Tim Patrick, KJ Hamler. They have enough weapons, even without Sutton, to where we shouldn't have to worry or wonder what the game plan should look like. We shouldn't have to guess.
Well said. Black Knight, 232, bona fide superstar, big-time gamer.
Yes.
Appreciate you, my friend. He says, hail to the new Season 8 tournament champs, baby. Well,
awesome.
Congrats to you guys.
Congrats.
That's great, brother. He says, the Broncos win on Sunday was funny in a way. I think Gordon coming back for the KC game will help out in a big way, and let's hope our OC won't do anything cute and stupid. Very appropriate timing there for that super chat. Appreciate you, my friend. Good to see you. And congrats again on your championship. That's great. Bronco Batman. And by the way, there's something that Shurmur said today. I want to read this quote, talk about it, but we got a few supers and questions we got to get to real quick that have stacked up. Bronco Batman, there he is. Good to see you, my brother.
Appreciate you.
He says, NFL Network saying sit all Denver's players and Denver D on fantasy. Start the Chiefs D and their offensive players. Shake my head. No love. Go Broncos. I feel you with the indignation, Bronco Batman, and for all of Broncos country. You hate being dismissed like that. But remember, not only is it the Chiefs, all right, and the juggernaut offense that they are, but the Broncos haven't beaten them since week 2 of 2015.
Right.
It's up to the Broncos to end this dismissive view with which the national perspective has on this team. I mean, they got to win this game. They got to beat the Chiefs.
And a lot of this is common sense as well, because if you play fantasy, if you have Mahomes or Tyreek Hill or Kelsey, they're must starts, regardless of opponent or week or whatever. And also the Denver defense, yeah, you're probably going to sit them because they're facing, again, the guys who are must starts. I disagree, though. I'm a big fantasy guy. I know some of you guys aren't out there, but I disagree sitting all Broncos players. Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay are ideal Fant plays this week, and Noah Fant is a great tight end streamer to start against that Kansas City defense. I would not bench all Broncos offensive players, but to say that it's a slight to Denver that they're saying play all Chiefs starters is not, it's just common sense.
Gerald, it's good to see you, my friend. Appreciate you being in the stream. I'm grabbing this one, John, from Levi, because the stream just did a jump, and I'll go back in and check it on the YouTube side. But Levi Hope jumping in again. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Levi.
Means a lot. Bonafide superstar. He says, if we win this game, Duke is shaving his beard, and it's going to be on video, and we're going to debut it on the podcast. Do we go for any named players in a trade? Do you see the Broncos being active at all before the trade deadline, Zach? Or does this game affect that at all?
I don't see so, because they'd be breaking even. They're still not exactly undefeated. Who are they going to trade for? Who do they need, let's say, that they don't already have as a replacement? Maybe a number one receiver, but then you have Judy and Hamler and Tim Patrick. You can't go there. Maybe an offensive lineman if Dalton Reisner's hurt, or if they want to get some depth. I can't see. I would say an inside linebacker, but they have Nigel Bradham. They have defensive linemen. They have enough cornerbacks. I would say maybe a backup safety, but you have two of the higher paid guys in the league. I don't see the Broncos making a trade unless there's an injury. I don't think a win is going to precipitate a trade. I think an injury and a necessity would make that happen.
D. Brown up in Canada jumping in with the super chat. And this is a cat that is active in our YouTube community in terms of commenting quite a bit and just being engaged in the conversation and in the community. And D, really appreciate that super chat, my friend, and your support. It means a lot to us, my friend. All right, so let me really quick, before we grab this next super here from Zach, let me read this quote from Pat Shurmur. And it's a little bit long, but Zach, there's a reason I want to read it here. This is on what he's seeing from Drew Lock that led to his confidence in taking those shots against the Patriots. And again, this is after Drew was basically inactive for a month of real time. Quote, this is Shurmur. We felt like we had to be aggressive, and I think we have to be that way against everybody we play. In regards to Drew, throughout the game, I think he was seeing things well. I think for the most part, he was putting the ball where he wanted to. There are certainly things in every game that you have to clean up technique-wise. I think there are 2 throws at the end that he'd like to have back. I don't know if there's anybody who's ever played a perfect game. There were certainly some mistakes that came at a bad time for us, but I thought he was seeing things pretty well. He was into it. Even when he makes a good play, he would still come back and say, hey, I saw this. I really put the ball where I wanted it. It's good. I think it's important that if they're going to present that type of coverage that the Patriots did, then you have to take shots on them. They were in press, and they were in man-to-man, a lot of one-on-one situations. Early in the game, we had a pass interference to Alberto, and for some reason, they decided to pick it up, and that puts us on the 1-yard line, and then a play later, he puts a nice ball to Jerry Jeudy in the end zone, which also could have been a touchdown at that point, which changes the game early in the game. I don't know if it's just a cavalier attitude. I just think that depending on who you play and how they play you, sometimes the ball gets thrown down the field more against some team than others. So, Zach, is he going to have that same kind of cavalier aggressiveness and trust his quarterback in a game that's going to be a weather game against a tough opponent?
Well, maybe I'm just that much of a Shurmur critic, but it seemed like he was praising his play calling but knocking Drew Lock for the interceptions, and he wouldn't have thrown the second one if Shurmur didn't dial up that long pass. So I said this earlier, based on the way Shurmur handled his press conference today, it seems like they realized and they identified being aggressive and opening up the offense, not playing in a phone booth. Using Locke's arm talent is going to help them win games. I don't see them ever going back to playing East and West football. I would hope so anyway. Now, what they do, again, we don't have to worry on a game-by-game basis, it sounds like, but on a snap-by-snap basis. He can knock Drew all he wants. I'm sure Locke would love to have those throws back, but you have to be smarter with the young quarterback. Be aggressive, but don't be stupid. It's a very fine line to walk.
Zach Lee Butler jumping in. Appreciate the super chat, my friend.
Thank you.
Good to see
Great
you.
name.
He says, Garrett Bowles showing all of us. And on that topic, Zach, here's what Garrett Bowles attributes his turnaround to up to this point. Quote, this is today. The difference is just my mental game and the time that I put in this offseason. I put in a lot of effort. When this whole word that shall go unmentioned thing hit, this pandemic, a lot of guys didn't have weight rooms and things like that, but I was lucky enough to have a little weight room by myself. I pushed myself extremely hard. I did the little things by taking extra sets and watching film to know where my hand placements are, doing a lot of hand drills. mostly just the mental side. And he goes on repeats himself a little bit, close quote here, but Garrett Bowles dedicated himself to the craft and it's paying dividends.
Okay, well, a couple of things here. His motivation was money. The Broncos removed his fifth-year option. They didn't give him an extension. He's going to be a free agent more than likely. He wants to get paid. So that's number one. Second of all, is he telling on himself here? Was he not doing these things before this season? If he would have done those things as a first-round draft pick, he wouldn't have been so terrible the last 3 years. I love that he turned it around. I give him a lot of credit. I've eaten a lot of crow about Garrett Bowles, but I just wish this light bulb would have flickered on 3 years ago and not in 2020.
Josh, good to see you, my friend. Appreciate you being with us on Facebook. 24-year veteran of the Air Force and just a bona fide stud and superstar and supporter of MHH.
Man.
We love Chris Hernandez, and he's reminding everybody, if you're on YouTube, if you're on Facebook, click those little thumbs up. And if you're on Periscope with us, the hearts makes a big difference in the old algorithm. So appreciate the super chat and the reminder there, Chris. You know we love you, buddy. Chase wants to know, do I start Fant even if it snows? I say yes.
Yes, Locke will lean on him as a safety blanket. They showed tremendous chemistry in the Week 1 opener. And in tight ends in the NFL, Chad, in fantasy football, they're few and far in between. Noah Fant is among the elite. Start him if you have him.
Edward Keating, it's good to see you, my friend. And in his YouTube profile pic, he's proudly rocking the Football Priest hat and the Football Priest T-shirt. We love you, Ed. Good to see you, my dog. Appreciate your support. He says, I agree with Zach. Play Bradham this week to cover Kelsey. Why are they waiting? I know Zach will disagree, but if the Broncos win this weekend, I think they should trade for a veteran wide receiver like Green.
No.
It's AJ Green or someone like that.
No, maybe Julio Jones if Atlanta wants to have a fire sale, but AJ Green literally is given up on the field. And I just don't think they need another receiver, a game-breaking type, when Cortland Sutton's not dead. He's under contract. He's coming back next season. Tim Patrick has stepped up. Hamler is going to have a bigger second-half role, as you and I both predicted before the season, Chad. And Jerry Jeudy is going to break out eventually. So I don't see a trade regardless this year for a receiver.
Wow, Dale. You're really just blowing us away, my friend.
Wow. Amazing.
We just appreciate it, and we love you, my friend. It goes a long way. Trust us on that. Yes, definitely tip of the cap. Thank you, Dale. He says, I like what Bradley Chubb said. And if you guys missed it, Chubb was available yesterday. He did a little presser. Quote, this is Dale quoting Chubb. If we want to take the next step, this is the team to take that next step against. Close quote. Hashtag state of being, hashtag Chad Zach beast mode presser after. Yeah, dude. I mean, he's right. And Drew Lock mentioned in his press conference on Wednesday, and this was day one of practice in preparation for the Chiefs, that, you know, he had already heard countless times that day. It had been brought up by different players. And right now, because of a coach testing positive for the word that shall go unmentioned and not being able to travel last week, the Broncos are under an additional temporary restriction with the word that goes unmentioned in terms of they're not around each other. And he's still hearing that from everybody. Man, we haven't beat the Chiefs since 2015. This is it, man. So to what Dale's speaking to here in Chubb's mindset, look, if we want to prove that this ain't the same old Broncos, right, the close but no cigar Broncos, maybe we'll threaten 500 Broncos, this is where they make that statement. Well said, Dale.
Yeah, the Justin Simmons Broncos, almost there, just not enough. This is what I'm going to say, though. I agree with the premise 100%. When the Broncos beat the Jets, no one gave them credit for that. It's the Jets, they're that bad. When they upset the Patriots, some people started paying attention. Others said, oh, well, Cam Newton was rusty. The Patriots didn't practice. There were all these excuses in the book. If they beat the Kansas City Chiefs, snow or not, the entire NFL, 31 other teams, will be forced to pay attention to Denver. So yes, absolutely. They're not contenders yet. They arguably wouldn't be even if they beat the Chiefs, but they'd be well back on the NFL map and they'd be getting a lot more attention than they are now. But until that point, Chad, let them eat.
Love the MHH face mask here from Jordan Cardona jumping in on YouTube. Appreciate you. He says, is Le'Veon Bell playing? All signs point to this is where he's going to get his debut. I would be stunned if Le'Veon Bell does not get a few touches, if maybe even more. I mean, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is playing, just phenomenal ball, and he's a rookie and making a lot of teams regret that they didn't draft him. But they brought in Le'Veon for a reason, and he's big, and he's got a lot of experience running between the tackles. And if you want to wear out a Broncos defense, Le'Veon Bell's a guy you could definitely do that with.
Andy Reid kind of left it up in the air. I do think it's barring how much he knows the playbook, because he went through the CV testing already. He's been with the Chiefs. He didn't play last week. If he does play, he's not going to start. It's going to be Edwards-Hilaire's offense for one more week. It would be a situational role if he does play as a pass catcher. That's what he brings to the table that the Chiefs weren't sold on with the rookie. So he's not going to play starter snaps, but if he's active, which I think he will be, he's going to force Fangio and the Denver defense to just account for one more player on top of everybody else.
All right, we got a question here from Drake Alexander. He says, I'm new to this podcast and a diehard Broncos fan.
Welcome, Drake.
Welcome. How many touchdowns do you think will be scored in this game total? I'm trying to remember what the over-under is. Real quick, I'm just going to – Carl had
55?
I think you're right. Let me just real quick, so here it is.
Sportsbetting.com.
Sportsbetting.com. I'm pulling it up right now. It's over-under is 47.5 per sportsbetting.com. So
47.5.
That's just shy of 7 touchdowns total. I think, though, because it's snow.
Wow, that's tough. That's right where I see the game going.
Honestly, Zach, we talked about this yesterday. I think if the Broncos get to 23 or 24 points in this game, they put themselves in position to win, and the weather only strengthens that take, so to speak. So
yeah.
I'm going to say, for the Broncos anyway, I'm going to say they get in the end zone twice and have at least 2 field goals. I think the Broncos, even in the snow, they're going to get to 20 this week.
I think total touchdowns, I think it'll be 5. It depends on the snow. It's hard for me to say right now. If it's a bad snowstorm versus just a little, showering, a drizzling of snow, that's different. I do think 23 points each, the over-under, is right where I think the game is going to go. The Broncos have to get to 24, I believe, to win this game in an ideal situation with no snow. If there is snow, 2 to 3 touchdowns for Denver, a couple McManus field goals, and let the defense take it from there.
Yes, Ashton, this is a great suggestion. As business guys, I mean, we're content guys, so business tends to be the last thing that, light bulb comes on for us. He says, hey, can you guys throw the link for the MHH merch store in the description on these streams?
Absolutely.
We will definitely start doing that, my friend. And John,
thank you,
can throw in the stream here shortly. Real quick here from Joshua on Facebook. I love the comment that Locke said, comparing himself to Darth Vader going against the Jedi counterparts. We talked quite a bit about this yesterday, Zach. Just for what it's worth, I saw a lot of reaction to this on social media from Broncos fans. Most of them did not like it. And I think it's because, everyone in Broncos country, you view yourself as the Jedi, right? And that they're the dark side. But if you put yourself in Drew's shoes, again, not only did he grow up as a Chiefs fan and in just outside of Kansas City, and he's a true son, went to Mizzou and all that, but like his entire family outside of his mom and dad and his sister and maybe 1 or 2 other immediate family members, everyone else, and they're passionate sports fans. They're tailgaters. They're all still Chiefs. So to him, emotionally, it's still very much, I have to be that villain and go in there and crush the Jedi because he loves his family. They're the good guys. And I got to be that villain. Unfortunately, that's the way it's got to be. It's business.
People always need something to be outraged about. It's amazing. I mean, it's the same Broncos fans who are complaining that Locke threw 2 picks, but they beat the Patriots last week. I mean, just be happy. It was an innocuous analogy he made about himself, and the fact that he got to transform from Buzz Lightyear to Darth Vader to play the Chiefs. It's just a fun comment a rival quarterback is making about a rival team. That's all it is. Nothing to read into it. It's just a young quarterback having some fun through the media. I like it.
Mike Kane jumping in on Super Chat. A name, Zach, that we do not recognize.
Welcome,
so
Mike.
Thank you and welcome. Yes, indeed, Mike. He says, hey, guys, longtime listener. Just wanted to say you guys rock. Keep it up. Well, thank you, Mike. That's very sweet. We do appreciate it, my friend. It means a lot. Don't forget to connect with us on Twitter so that we can shout you out after this episode. Josh with a question here on Facebook. What would you think if the KC defense gets home on lock a lot early in the game? Could we see a tight end running back or 2 running back sets to keep Locke upright? I think what it would be is multiple tight ends, to be honest with you, if that's how it ends up shaking out. But, I worry about Chris Jones. I'm thinking back to that snow game. I haven't rewatched the film, and I will between now and for Sunday. But I remember Frank Clark being more of a problem in that snow game than Chris Jones was. But that's not to minimize Chris Jones. Chris Jones, he was tip of the spear for them in the Super Bowl. He was just phenomenal. So I don't know. I think, when it comes down to protection, if they have to go heavy, it's going to be tight ends more so than 2 running back sets.
But look at the tackles in that game. Was Juwan James playing or was that Wilkinson? I can't remember.
It was Wilkinson.
And then you had Garrett Bowles being the previous version of Garrett Bowles, so that's why they had more success. Garrett Bowles is much better, and DeMar Dotson, now that he's playing, is much better. I worry about the interior, but I think a lot can evade it with his natural improvisational ability. But if it came down to it, yes, they would actually have more running plays, max protect, quick 3-step drops. This is my previous point. It comes down to Shermer in the game. I'm not really worried going into the game, but during the game, when things change, situations change, will he adapt? That's what I want to see.
Isaiah wants to know on Facebook, is there any news on Aj Boulier? And oftentimes, we address this at the top of the show, but sometimes people are going about their business. They're going about their lives. They open up Facebook, they open up YouTube, and they catch the stream mid. They don't always see or hear what we talk about early. So Isaiah, he's trending towards playing. There's no way to know for sure up to this point because he's on injured reserve, and so he's not on the practice report. But all signs, based on his activity at practice, point to him returning this week.
Yep. I would look for the Broncos to activate him before the game.
Yes. So good to have you in the stream, my friend. Welcome. Duke jumping in. Appreciate you, my friend.
You,
talk about a superstar. And we're all hoping that beard gets shaved Sunday night. He says, for Terry Randall, #state of being, great things are happening for him, and I'm stoked for my brother. This is good news. Terry, dog, we'd love to know what's going on. We support you. We love you. Glad to hear things are going well for you. Terry, up there, north of the 49th parallel up in Canada. Love Duke, love Terry. Good to see you guys. And Terry, congrats on whatever's cooking for you, my friend. By the way, from Edward, appreciate the super chat. Again, he says, I haven't commented much, but I have been watching. Thanks, Chad and Zach.
Thank you, Edward.
We know it, my friend. Trust me. We know it. You are ride or die with MHH and the Huddle Up podcast. So appreciate you. Holden Adams jumping in. It's been a minute since we've seen Holden Adams. Good to see you and have you in the stream. He says, is Spencer healthy after his injury, or will Tyreek Cleveland be our guy this week? So Spencer is not healthy, Deontay Spencer. He's still been did not practice Wednesday, did not practice Thursday. Odds are he's not going to play. And so it's going to be Tyree this week, I'm guessing, as far as the returner goes.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
We're getting short on time, so let's muscle through. We might have to be a little bit quicker on some of these supers than we would prefer, but we don't leave anyone in the cold. Spartan2492 jumping in. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
He says, with a win or a close game where we lose next Sunday, there is a chance for the playoffs. This will be one of the biggest tests for the Broncos. So even if the Broncos lose this game, all right, and they get to 2 and they end up 2-4, you still got 10 games left to go. Zach, that magic number you hit on it is 9, right? To kind of be in the conversation with that 7th playoff spot being opened up in each conference. So that would mean the Broncos would have to go their last 10 games 7-3 to get to 9 wins to be in that conversation. It's a tall task, but stranger things have happened in the league.
Yeah, even if they lose this game, the season's not over, but it's taking 2 different approaches to it. You can looking at it on a macro level of playoffs or a micro level of how the Broncos play the Kansas City Chiefs. If they lose, how do they lose? How does Drew Lock look? Because on a micro level, Lock's development is arguably as important or more important than never making the playoffs this year. Knowing what he can do in any given situation is the question the Broncos have to answer, regardless of record this season.
Dale, man, just being so generous today. Thank you, Dale.
Thank you so much, Dale.
Man, it just blows us away. Really means a lot to us, my brother. And it's a symbolic one here on this particular super chat. He says 28 points off Lock's arm on Sunday. That's what I hope to see. 4 touchdowns. I hate to hear take shots downfield. One-on-one with a winning matchup, okay. Other than that, just take what the defense gives you. Downs are too valuable to take shots. I get what you're saying on that, Dale. The chess game that is the that 60-minute window in which coaches go up against each other and scheme against scheme and whatnot. Sometimes, you got to set them up and try and knock them down, and that's why it's important to get early, establish the run as quick as you can early so that play action game can actually be a threat for you. And that's something that Zach and I have really been hammering on the last 2 weeks in particular is there's just too much hut, drop back and throw. Yeah. We like the vertical. We like the showing some aggression, especially when Locke's throwing dimes in those first 3 quarters last week. But, maybe try and establish the play action. And they had the run game last week, Zach. Why weren't you doing any play fakes? Because what does that play fake do? What's the purpose behind a play fake? It gets all of the back 7. It
holds them.
Exactly. It temporarily freezes them or forces them to think, or it's just that split, just that beat of a heart in which they're just paralyzed for a second. And that's where great things can happen. So utilize the play action more. That's what I want to see, Zach.
Yeah, I see what the premise of the point is making, but what's the old Wayne Gretzky expression? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, and that's exactly what it applies to the Broncos. They would never get in the end zone if they don't take shots down the field, and they should have been in the end zone if his receivers could catch last week. We're talking about an entirely different game. I will say this is my bold prediction. If they score 28 points, they will win this ballgame. That is enough for me. If the Broncos played the same defense they brought against New England, 28 points, they will upset the Chiefs on Sunday.
Yeah,
I think so.
I agree, man. If you can get to 28, that bodes well. All right, we got Spartan 2492 jumping in again. Thank you, my friend.
Wow, thank you.
He says, it is nice to be aggressive and go for the long ball, but why not try to work on getting the first downs to build chemistry with the players? Your thoughts. So thank you for the super again. Zach, and this is to Dale as well. The best quarterbacks in the game are also the best game managers, including Patrick Mahomes. He's a massive playmaker, right? But he's also an excellent game manager. And that's something that Vic Fangio credited him this week in terms of, I think he's actually even gotten better. And one of the ways that you can clearly see Mahomes is getting better is just the way that he is feeling and managing the game and situations and just, doing all that math subconsciously on probabilities when you're given situations. And so I think the order of the day, and this is the challenge and why it's one of the most difficult jobs for any athlete in all of professional sports, is being a quarterback, because you have to walk the line of being that game manager. And as Dale said, taking what the defense gives you. And as Spartan talked about, working the middle of the field and building chemistry and all that, while also keeping your eye out for those big plays that are going to be there. Those big plays will happen if you're doing everything else right. So you got to be able to walk that line of being the game manager and taking what the defense gives you, but also having the instinct to put your boot on the throat, so to speak, when opportunity knocks.
Very well put. It also comes down to Shurmur dialing up the right plays in the right situations. And this harkens back to my last point. Overall, they're going to be aggressive. And overall, I like aggressive Shurmur. But when you're 3rd and 3 in the red zone, don't throw it to the end zone 20 yards down the field. Don't have a low percentage play call. Throw something underneath to Jerry Jeudy, a tight end, a running back, and move the chains and then go for the end zone. So Chad said perfectly, it's tough to walk a fine line, but it's definitely doable, and the Broncos have shown that. It's all about being consistent and walking that line.
Based Gase jumping in on Super Chat. Appreciate you, my friend. With those eyeballs, it looks like free based Gase, right? He says, what's up, guys? Do you think we should have kept Scangarello? Shurmur ain't perfect, but I like his aggressiveness, and Shurmur is a hero if wide receivers learn to catch. That's true. Zach, everyone would be singing a different tune about Pat Shurmur if even 2 of those dimes that were dropped in the end zone on Sunday against the Patriots are caught.
Just Pat Shurmur, though, not Drew Lock, the guy getting all the blame for throwing the 2 picks and not having any touchdowns. What do you like to say, Chad? If ifs and nuts were candies and butts?
Candy and nuts.
Yeah, we can play the what if game all we want, but it didn't happen that way. If it works out, he's the hero. If it doesn't, he's the GOAT. And Shurmur was the GOAT in that game. We can only hope he learns from that and is smarter starting Sunday.
Antonio Aragon jumping in with a generous super. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Antonio.
He says, always happy to catch an MHH pod. Even more happy to see some of our studs coming back for this game. Boulier and Purcell can make a huge impact. # Broncos country. Yeah, both guys. Purcell, fortunately, even though he's nursing that knee, he hasn't had to miss any time up to this point. But what should really encourage you, Antonio, and everybody else is, Boulier's coming back. It's looking like anyway. Noah Fant. There's still, I would say, probably 50-50 chance of Hamler. And who am I missing? Draymond Jones. You're going to get Draymond Jones back this week as well. So timely, we'll just say it's opportune, time for these guys to return.
And if Boulier plays, which I think he will, don't be surprised you see him match up a lot on Travis Kelce. Big-bodied cornerback, long arms, physical. It's a good matchup for the Broncos defense.
All right, guys, we do have to dip out of here. I think that is all of our Super Chat superstars for tonight. Let me just make sure we're, excuse me, we are not missing anybody here. Bear with me just 1 second. I think Fant will play fine, by the way, for what it's worth, Drake. I'm not worried about Fant. Fant has proved to me so far this year that when he's out on the field, you're going to get a very good upper echelon tight end. You just need an offensive coordinator and a quarterback who can recognize that and feed him in the passing game. All right, guys. Thank you so much to each and every one of you for giving us an hour of your time tonight, for those of you who've been with us. And a mile-high salute to our Super Chat superstars and our Facebook supporters. Your generosity, guys, just blows us away day in and day out. I mean, Zach and I, we constantly are thanking our lucky stars with how great our community is.
Yes.
And your support really does allow us to show up every single day, 6 p.m., Mountain to 7 p.m. and drop you this content. And as you guys know, it goes beyond that as well. We're doing a lot more. We're making videos that are going up at milehighhuddle.com and on YouTube. We're writing articles. We're doing, we're making memes. We're doing every little thing possible to cover your team and give you guys a great experience in the community and also in terms of coverage. So thank you so much to you guys. And of course, Zach and I, we're off from here on out this week, but we will be back on Sunday for the gut reaction. And even before that, Zach, we'll be back for the halftime instant reaction. Right. So we'll be back Sunday, but have a great weekend, my friend.
You too. I'm always looking forward to going into a game week. And Broncos country, don't write this off as a loss. This could be another Broncos upset. Everyone doubting the Broncos last week. The Broncos proved them wrong. Chad and I think, win or lose, it's going to be a very, very hard fought and interesting battle on Sunday.
Indeed. And don't forget, by the way, guys, we're going to have the Mile High Roundtable article will be published tomorrow on Friday. That's going to be the entire MHH staff making their picks and predictions for Broncos Chiefs. So keep an eye out for that. And just a reminder, guys, since this is our sign off for the week here for the Huddle Up podcast, tomorrow night you have Dove Valley Deep Divers, and then, of course, Saturday Mile High Insiders, same time, 6 p.m. Mountain, 8 p.m. Eastern. But keep the conversation going. We want you to connect with us on social media. Zack Kelberman on Twitter, at Kelberman NFL, myself at Chad N. Jensen. But also we want you to keep the conversation going at milehighhuddle.com. We want you commenting. We want you engaged and letting us know how you feel, giving us your takes, giving us your insight on all these topics and issues. I mean, each and every day there's 4 to 10 articles that are getting published on milehighhuddle.com covering the storylines on your team. We do want to hear your takes. So make sure you stay with us daily over at milehighhuddle.com. But one last thing before I forget, Zach, how could I forget? Follow the producer, John Cronenberg, on Twitter, at John K as well. Trust me when I say you'll love being engaged with John on Twitter. He's a very fun and passionate follow on Twitter. But for now, guys, we got to get out of here. So have a great weekend. For Zack Kelberman, I'm Chad Jensen. We'll see you Sunday at halftime for Broncos Chiefs.
You've been listening to the Huddle Up Podcast. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.